to the right, caught over the middle, and into.
He's at the 45. Are you kidding? He's gonna go!
Brady gets hit, the ball is out, and Philadelphia has it.
What is good, everybody? Welcome back to NFL Terror Talk, streaming to you live here on DSM Media's Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter channels. Guys, if you're new to the channel, make sure you check us out on Twitter first at DSM_media. Hit that follow button. We greatly appreciate it. And while you're over on the page, make sure you check out the link tree in our bio. It'll take you to every social media platform we are available on. If you want to be interactive throughout today's show, make sure you check out the link to the YouTube channel specifically. Hit that subscribe button. It is the best place to get your thoughts, comments, and questions pulled up on the screen to join our conversation today. I'm one half of your host, Dylan Davis. You can find me on Twitter at DylanJD98. To my right, my co-host and co-founder here at DSM Media, Scotty. Make sure you give him a follow as well at Scotty Drown. NFL free agency offseason is well underway, my man. Trades, big free agent signings, the draft coming up. We got a lot to discuss. I have a feeling the two guys behind us in this background are going to be a big part of today's discussion. But it's good to be back talking NFL football with you, man. Obviously, the Phillies are gearing up to start March Madness. The Sixers are approaching playoff territory. So you kind of, the Eagles and football season gets lost kind of in this fold for a little bit. But it's one of the busiest times of the year for the sport.
Yeah, I think this is a great time to get a show in, honestly, just because it's such an exciting part of the offseason, and you're not going to get this much excitement again aside from the NFL draft, right? So we have the free agency period, then you get NFL draft, then everything just drags from
mini
there,
camps
right?
and OTAs,
camp, training camp, preseason. Yeah. So everything there, it's going to be more about what we're going into the season with already on the squad, looking forward into the schedule. So now's a great time to get into this stuff because there's already so much that has happened, but there's still so much more that can happen after this. So yeah, I'm happy to be talking some birds and some NFL football. Obviously, we've had time to get over that Super Bowl loss, right? It took a while, man. I was in a dark space. And I know you talked about you were as well. So I'm happy to be here. Happy to be talking, some NFL with you today, my man.
Yeah, man. I mean, as any fan of a fan base that gets to the mountaintop, you want so badly to just bring it all home. And unfortunately, we weren't able to do so. And then following that, the Eagles obviously lose their offense coordinator, lose their defense coordinator, have to replace those, lose multiple guys on the defensive side of the ball as well as the offensive side of the ball. They've retained some. They've signed some other players. We're going to get into that later on in the show. But first, we are going to start here in the Big Apple in New York. My God,
New Jersey.
More Aaron Rodgers, more drama, another offseason. What is different about it this time, my man? But what are your thoughts on this? Obviously, it seems like this deal is all but officially done, right?
Yeah.
You had the reports, Aaron coming out himself on the Pat McAfee show and saying that he intends to play for the New York Jets. The Packers just have to get a deal that they are comfortable with and they like, and they will ship him off to the AFC. They obviously, being the Jets, they go out, they bring in Nathaniel Hackett, who was Rodgers' offensive coordinator in Green Bay. They have a good relationship. They signed wide receiver Alan Lazard. They go out to get Mecole Hardman yesterday. They're making moves. It seems like this is all but finished. How are you feeling about this one? Is this the right fit? And if you're the Jets, are you happy with this outcome?
It's a loaded question there. Yeah. So
a lot to go into.
Is it the perfect fit? I don't know that. I think if I was looking at it from a perfect fit for Aaron Rodgers, I would look over to Las Vegas. I think that's perfect fit for Aaron Rodgers. It's, not to say New York is some small city. It's one of the biggest cities in the world, but Las Vegas is just like a different animal, and I think Aaron Rodgers would fit in really well out there. And then obviously you have Devontae Adams out there, right? That was his number one guy for a while. But nonetheless, do I think it's a good move for the Jets? Drama aside, yes, you get a legitimate quarterback in here. You're talking about a Hall of Fame MVP candidate year in, year out, and Aaron Rodgers. Now, last year wasn't the greatest, right, for him and for the Packers. So if you're the Packers, yeah, I would be ready to move on from the drama. If I was a Packers fan personally, I think I would be ready to move on from the drama. Now, it's easier for me to say that because I don't have the attachment to Aaron Rodgers that Packers fans would. But yeah, you have to ask yourself, Rodgers isn't worth the drama. So taking that out of the question, yeah, I think it's a great move for the Jets. What are they going to give up for him? That's going to be another key part of this. Is it going to be a first-round pick? Is it going to be multiple first-round picks, right? Don't know how far the Jets are going to be willing to go with that, but it seems like they're going to be willing to do whatever it takes, right? You kind of have to if you're going out and signing these other players that Aaron Rodgers had on his wish list. But, to Phil's point there in the comments about him being too much drama, maybe that's the way the Raiders look at it, right? You go out, you can get Jimmy G where that's a little bit safer. But I think looking at it from Aaron Rodgers' perspective, it's almost like he's trying to single-handedly turn the NFL to a players league. And the NFL, you've seen it with Lamar Jackson, you've seen it with other players as well. The NFL doesn't budge very often on this. So I think that's interesting, taking this to like the social media and the podcasting world to like announce this, like kind of like LeBron going to Miami, right? I'm headed to South Beach. Well, he's headed
telling major media personalities and reporters to lose his number and nice try. He definitely does not lack personality, man. Listen,
I just don't know if I like him. I used to love him.
That's where I'm at. You and I have had this discussion, and especially with his play on field this past season, really took me to another level with what the hell is going on with Aaron Rodgers. But I mean, dude, he's coming off back-to-back MVPs. He clearly did not want to be here. So it is going to be a very interesting fit. The issue with this, leverage is always a big topic when it comes to this kind of situation. And normally you would think, well, the team that has to pull the trigger to get the deal done, being the Green Bay Packers, has the leverage.
Yeah.
Drop the pen. I don't think that's the case in this scenario. Aaron Rodgers is done in Green Bay. He does not want to be there. He basically showed you that last year. He showed it to you probably for the last 2 to 3 off seasons. Yeah. Green Bay is done with Aaron Rodgers. Green Bay wants nothing more to do with that word at the bottom of the screen, drama. They are ready to move on to his replacement, Jordan Love, who they selected highly in a draft just 2 years ago, right?
Right.
They don't really have the leverage here. Rodgers, if you do not move him, even if it's not like Aaron Rodgers is an all-time great quarterback, still playing at a semi-MVP level, can lead the New York Jets to the postseason, potentially beyond to a Super Bowl championship.
Yeah.
You would think you would get a hell of a haul for a player of that caliber. I don't think that's going to be the case here because neither side, being him and Green Bay, wants to reconcile this. So the Jets don't have to offer them multiple first-round picks, young talent. They don't. They'll get what would you say? A first, maybe 2, and some future picks down the line, later rounds. Like you are not getting 3+ first-round draft picks for Aaron Rodgers. You are not getting 2+ and young talent from the Jets.
No. They
have no leverage here.
Not even like a Russ Wilson type of haul. And mind you, I think, Aaron Rodgers he's shown that he was better than him last year, I would feel. But I don't think he's going to garner that type of haul. And I think the longer that it goes without this officially being done and them getting a deal done, the less they're going to get, in my opinion, because it's just going to come down to a stalemate, right? Who's going to budge first? And I just don't see why the Jets would be that team that would have to do that. Aaron Rodgers,
they're sitting back like, go ahead. They're like, go ahead, keep him.
Try
to keep them and see how that's going to play out this year.
Yeah, so from that standpoint, I agree with you, man. I would say the only better, and I don't know if I would even say it's a better fit, although it's an interesting fit. The only player that I think the Jets should have gone after a little bit harder or at all is Lamar Jackson. I think he fits their timeline better than Aaron Rodgers because – yeah, they've added Allen Lazard. Is he like a Super Bowl ready, playoff ready type of wide receiver? Garrett Wilson is great. Is he ready to turn into that guy next season? Maybe he is. Maybe I'm sleeping on Garrett Wilson. Maybe he does turn into that.
I just think back from injury.
you look at Lamar Jackson, you're going to get Lamar Jackson for what, the next 5 years, right? To figure this out and win this thing. But at the same time, you're going to be tied into a longer contract, more guaranteed money. So I do get both sides of it. I think that's the route I would have, if I'm a Jets fan, I would have preferred to go that route. But you can't turn your head to bringing in Aaron Rodgers if you're a Jets fan and you've had to watch Zach Wilson. So beggars can't be choosers at the end of the day. And I think this works out probably as good, maybe second best as it could have been for the Jets. But that depends how you view Lamar Jackson and Aaron Rodgers as well. So I think the Jets have probably made out probably as good as they could have, especially in the quarterback position.
I'm glad you brought up that final point, because what gets lost in all of this noise, you're talking drama, you're talking personalities, you're talking money, you're talking age. What gets lost is the in-now performance. And this is a New York Jets team that was on the cusp of grabbing a 7 seed in the AFC with you and I playing quarterback. It's what it comes down to. Now you were talking about adding potentially a top 3 talent. I'm talking pure arm talent of all time.
And the defense is ready.
He is not 5 years removed from an MVP campaign. He is 1 year removed from back-to-back MVP campaigns.
Yeah.
So what gets lost in this is like, wow, if you are a Jets fan, if you're a football fan like you and I are, how exciting and crazy in the storylines you're going to get in season 6, 7, 8 months from now, because they are going to be a hell of a football team once this trade gets pushed through.
Yeah, I agree. I think they're set up for success. And from that standpoint that you just laid out there, the offensive weapons, they're a little young, right? Garrett Wilson, Breece Hall, so on and so forth. But that defense is ready, to give them credit where it's due. That defense is ready to contend for championships. Sauce Gardner comes in. He's an immediate CB1, right? I'm with you. I think it's a good fit. I think Aaron Rodgers, we're going to see even more of his personality in the New York media.
Absolutely.
Right? Like, I mean, it's going to be insane. And I'm kind of excited for it. Like, at least it's not in Green Bay anymore and take the drama to New York. Might get a little bit more interesting, but if I'm a Packers fan, I'm ready to move on from this, man. This is like a worse. It's like a worse.
You're in a relationship with somebody who doesn't love you back anymore. That's what it is.
Exactly, right? He's already denied you. So, like, if I'm a Packers fan, I'm ready to move on, get this over with. But for
let
the
me
Jets,
ask you this: sitting here today, March, what is it? The 23rd, March 23rd. We are months away from opening, from kickoff.
Yeah.
If this trade gets pushed through, and let's say that last year was an anomaly. Aaron Rodgers' head was not in it. He did not care to be in Green Bay anymore. Maybe he's not the MVP of the league, but he is a bar below MVP-esque level. Are the Jets front runners for the AFC East with Josh Allen and the Bills there? Like, is the Jets roster better than the Bills? And then when you add into the equation Josh Allen versus Aaron Rodgers, I think it's a lot closer than people think. Man. I've listened to multiple people, and did you say you still have Miami?
Oh, I was just saying, let's not forget about Miami. I mean, they're right there as well.
No, absolutely. Yeah. But my point is, I heard someone come out and say they are going to be the 3rd best team in that division, and I think that's ludicrous. I think they have a very strong argument to be number 1 in that division.
Yeah, I would say number 1 or number 2. They have as good a chance as the other 2 teams that you would consider. I mean, you can feel how you want to feel about the Pats. I don't think they've improved enough to be in that combo. But the Dolphins, they go out and get Jalen Ramsey. That's a great addition. You have a top corner duo there. Josh Allen, the Bills, still yet to see what they're going to do. They were able to bring back Jordan Poyer, but I've heard some things about DeAndre Hopkins and the Bills potentially. That would be interesting, right?
Now that would be absurd.
Yeah, that would take things to a different level. But as of right now, like you said, on March 23rd today, they have as good a shot as the Bills, in my opinion, with Aaron Rodgers. At the end of the day, we've at least seen Aaron Rodgers win in big games. He's lost a lot of big games. He has won the biggest game. He has won the MVP. So he has a proven track record. So you can't discount that. And I would go as far as to argue Jets have the best defense in that division, and I think that's a big, big part of that equation. You could argue Breece Hall gives him the best running back in the division as well. Aside from the Pats, they have Ramondre. He's a good back, but Breece Hall has that star type talent if he comes
They
back
still
from
have Michael
injury, of
Carter
course.
too, right?
Yeah, they do. They do have Michael Carter, which he's a solid back just to hold it down until Breece Hall is fully healthy.
They lost James Robinson,
Yeah,
obviously.
they moved on from James Robinson, but nonetheless, yeah, I think they have as good a shot as anybody. And maybe by the time the season starts, who knows what they do with this roster, and who knows what we hear about Garrett Wilson and his development? Because I think if he develops into like a legitimate wide receiver one, which it's possible. He showed great signs last year. It literally is possible for him to do that. If he does that, the sky's the limit, man. You talk about Allen Lazard. He's not a wide receiver one.
Oh, he's
But he's a reliable wide receiver two.
And
wide receiver
there's
three.
a lot of smoke around the OBJ noise with New York as well, man. And listen, the dude hasn't played in over a calendar year, right? So, and at that age, coming off that major injury, you don't know what he's got left. But if he's your wide receiver 3 playing with a future Hall of Fame quarterback, it could be very interesting, man. So obviously we have a whole offseason to continue into this. Obviously, once the news breaks and this trade is official, I'm sure we'll come back on here and discuss it even further. But until then, let's move on over to our next team, next quarterback on the move this offseason. Derek Carr finds a new home in New Orleans, no longer out there with the Raiders. It felt like a long time coming, man. It felt like he accomplished and that organization accomplished as much as they were going to together. It seems like last year that relationship was pretty much fractured, right? They go out and they bring in one of his longtime friends and college friends in Devontae Adams, and you have Hunter Renfrow, and you're hoping for Darren Waller to stay healthy, and never put it together. And whether that's coaching, him, a combination, we don't know. But now he gets traded to the Saints. Solid defense. Michael Thomas re-signed. We don't know what he's got left in the tank. Chris Olave. Then they go out, sign Jamal Williams as well, the touchdown scoring leader from last season from Detroit. Contract 4 years, $150 million, $100 million guaranteed for Derek Carr. What do you like, dislike? What are your thoughts on this trade?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and say it makes the Saints one of my top 3 winners of the offseason so far, in my opinion. I think you look at the Saints, and I know I might catch a lot of heat for saying this about Derek Carr, but he's a great quarterback upgrade for the Saints. Like, I know he gets a ton of shit talked about. It's very odd, actually, the way he's talked about, because he is a solid 10, 11, 12 ranked quarterback in the NFL, right? They're getting a top 13 quarterback, in my opinion, by signing and extending Derek Carr here. And you talk about, this is the most stable that position has been since Drew Brees left. And when Drew Brees was there, they were a perennial NFC contender. So what do they do now? They go back out, they get Derek Carr, like I said, a top 13 quarterback in the NFL. That puts them right back where they were, in my opinion, because they haven't lost that much in between. Their defense has been good. They still have Alvin Kamara. They still have Michael Thomas. Juwan Johnson, the tight end, stepped up last year.
That's a great point, dude. Kamara and Jamal Williams as that tandem.
Beautiful tandem, man. So I love what the Saints did here. I love the signing of Jamal Williams as well. Like you said, that tandem with Alvin Kamara, they kind of balance each other out perfectly, because Kamara is that, that scat receiving back. He likes to work out of the backfield, catch passes. Jamal Williams is the opposite, right? He's that pounder. Right. He's that guy that's going to run between the tackles, get in the end zone. So I really, really like what the Saints did in this offseason so far, just by bringing in Derek Carr. Just stabilizing that quarterback position is so huge. Now you look throughout their division, who has the best quarterback in the division?
Oh, they're number one. That's where I was going to take this conversation. Like, the Saints are now back to being the front runners of the NFC South, and they are going to be one of the teams as a top 4 seed out of the NFC next season. And it's funny. I had quote tweeted it earlier, and from Get Up on ESPN, and Robert Griffin III was doing his top 5 quarterback list in the NFC, assuming that Aaron Rodgers is no longer there. And up until this moment right now, while we're talking about Derek Carr as a Saint, my mind, his list was Jalen Hurts number 1, and then he had Dak, Kirk Cousins, Kyler
Kirk ahead of Dak.
and Geno Smith. Kirk ahead of Dak. Whatever. Those were his four.
Okay, no.
Oh, no,
I
you're good.
I got
Those were his four outside of Jalen Hurts. And the initial thought as an Eagles fan was, oh, this is Jalen's competition on the road to another Super Bowl. And now we're sitting here having this conversation. It didn't even pop up in my head. Derek Carr belongs on that list.
Yeah.
Derek Carr is a top 5 quarterback in the NFC, assuming that Aaron Rodgers is gone.
Yeah.
Derek Carr, I'm sorry. Listen, I know he got his money. He had a hell of a year. Derek Carr is better than Geno Smith. I'm telling you right now, he's better than Kyler Murray.
Yeah.
You can make an argument. I would probably put Derek Carr ahead of Kirk Cousins. It's arguable.
I'm not a Kirk Cousins fan, so I'm not going to sit here and argue with you.
They're probably very similar. I'll agree. Dak's better and Jalen's better. Derek Carr is probably a top 3 to 4 quarterback in the NFC. And with that roster, with those running backs, with that defense, with that culture, that home field advantage, the Saints are going to be good again, man.
Yeah. And look, I think we'll find some things out about Derek Carr as well. Like,
absolutely,
was he took all the blame in Las Vegas, right? Like, he's the culprit. He's the guy that escaped town, and he stole everything away from them last year. If you ask Raiders, but was it Derek Carr or was it the Raiders organization? Because now we have an organization. We have a New Orleans organization that in the past has been known for being a great organization, putting a winning football team out on the field for the last 10 or so years. So, I'm interested to see how this plays out with Derek Carr. I think you give him Chris Olave. I know it's a downgrade from Devontae Adams, potentially the best wide receiver in the league. But Chris Olave, he's rising. Michael Thomas, we just haven't seen. So he's had years off. His legs should be good, right? I'm interested to see what this offense looks like because we already know what the defense does.
Right. Derek Carr has to come into New Orleans and there's an you can make the argument he has to be a game manager. You can make the argument for them to be successful. That's all he has to be. And we know that he has the big arm ability to make big time plays. So yes, while he does not have Devontae Adams, potentially the number 1 wide receiver in the league, he doesn't have Hunter Renfrow, etc. He's still got some guys. The difference, his offensive line is much better now. His defense is 1,000 times better now. Yeah. His organization, his coaching staff, 1,000 times better now. Yeah. His home field advantage, 1,000 times better now. So I think Derek Carr is going to thrive, to be honest with you, in New Orleans, man. So they're definitely a team to look out for.
The time was up in Las Vegas. It just got to the point where I think if you're a Las Vegas Raiders fan, you're probably like, come on, let's move on from this guy already. We've tried.
Which is fair.
It's fair, right? You've been,
but he was 110%, not the main culprit for your failures and shortcomings last season.
Absolutely.
Speaking of, next on the list, his replacement, that same organization, Porno Jimmy. Signs with the Las Vegas Raiders, 3 years, over $72 million, $45 million guaranteed, man. Can I let you in on a little secret? Yeah. This does nothing for me. Not a goddamn thing for me here. It really almost didn't matter what quarterback stepped into Vegas this year. When you and I talk a lot about Josh McDaniels, you and I talk a lot about their organization and their shortcomings last year. Seacoles, the porn star team is going to be great. In Vegas, don't get me wrong. For that point, off of the football field, he's perfect for Vegas, okay? Jimmy Garoppolo, who has made a career of being what I just said Derek Carr should be in New Orleans, a game manager. He's won a lot of games. He protects the football. He's not going to throw for an enormous amount of yards. He's not going to make no crazy plays, right? Clearly, they need something a little more out in Vegas.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting.
Yeah, I think what Cole said here.
100%.
I think it's spot on.
They got the club behind the end zone. Like, come on.
Hey, and he's a good-looking dude, man. They're gonna be all over him. It's wild, but
that's why I selected the no helmet picture for the show.
Fair enough. No, I'm with you guys though. It just doesn't move the needle.
Not at all.
They're like the same team, like in my eyes. Like they're the same team.
You can make the argument that it's not even as worse.
Good as Carr, right?
Yeah.
Carr's best season is much better than Jimmy G. So I don't know. I looked at this. I looked at it as kind of like a mute move. Is like just keeps them in the middle of the pack, maybe, right? They franchise tag Josh Jacobs in the mix with that. They brought in lost Darren Waller, brought in Jacoby Myers from the Pats. So, I mean, I don't know. It just doesn't move the needle. None of those moves move the needle for me. Josh Jacobs, it's great that you retain him because you're going to need him for Jimmy G. But like you said, he's not going to be able to do things that Derek Carr couldn't. That's the problem for me. And I think the other side of it is that, did they even go after a guy like Aaron Rodgers, right? Did they even go after a guy like that? That's kind of my problem there. Maybe they did. Maybe they didn't want the drama in Las Vegas. I can understand that, honestly. But Jimmy G, I don't know. Like, is that better than just going through the draft, like trying to trade up and go through? I don't know, man. Maybe they didn't have any other options. There wasn't a ton of quarterbacks available out there, but
fair point, man. It's a fair comparison. I'm with you. I mean, if there's one thing he can do better than Derek Carr, that is probably protect the football, right? Derek Carr is coming off back-to-back seasons with 14 interceptions. But again, you can make the argument that it's him trying to overcompensate. It's him trying to do too much because his team started the season 1-4 because his defense can't get off the field. How about the game when their fan base was popping champagne bottles in the end zone against the Cardinals? And they give up 24 points in like a quarter and a half, and they lose in overtime. That happened just last year. Now, listen, Derek Carr, I'm sure the offense was to blame for that. My memory doesn't go all the way back to what happened each drive, but I'll bet your ass that their defense didn't step up and make a stop. I'll bet your ass that their coach had something to do with that loss. So, yeah. No, I would agree with Cole's last point. Definitely, it's a safer floor. It's a higher floor with a lower ceiling in terms of the comparison for those two. Again, man, you lost Darren Waller too, who obviously has had his issues staying healthy and on the field and being available. But I mean, when the dude is healthy, he was a top 5 to 7 tight end at one point just a year or two ago.
They brought in a tight end. I can't remember. Who? Austin Hooper. Austin Hooper. So, he's definitely not.
You know what that does for me?
Waller, but...
You know what that does for me? A whole lot of nothing. Just like Jimmy G does for me.
The only counterpoint to Darren Waller losing him is that he didn't play most of last season anyways, because he was beat up and he seems to be injured a lot. But nonetheless, that is a downgrade. Nevertheless, Austin Hooper isn't moving any totem poles for me. But
no.
Yeah, I don't know, man. The Raiders, it seems like they're just out here raidering again. You know what I mean? Like I don't know what to say about Jimmy G to the Raiders. It's a whole lot of nothing to me.
To Cole's point here, they have an overall safer roster. Do they not remember the division that they play in? Now, granted, the division wasn't as great as we were all hoping for last year, but Denver, the coaching change, obviously Sean Payton, you're expecting a bounce back year from them and Russ. You have the Super Bowl champions and MVP and Mahomes. You have Justin Herbert and the Chargers. I don't know if safe and Jimmy Garoppolo is what I'm going for to compete. So the Raiders are in Nothingville for the next, I don't know.
No man's land. That's what sucks about it. And you have to just ask yourself, and once again, I said it earlier. Yes, it may have been time to let Derek Carr move on, but for this, is it worth it? I don't know. At the end of the day, we'll find out. I do agree. It is a safer floor. It is, you may not get as many interceptions. You may not get as many bad decisions. Maybe that does make the difference for him. He does have history with McDaniels, so that explains the connection. But I don't know. I'm not.
Hey, man, they would lose to the guy they just shipped off. The Saints would beat their ass. But anyway, I'm tired of talking about irrelevant teams, so let's continue moving on.
Yeah, let's move on.
I forget who we have next. Oh, big off season so far for this organization. Obviously, they had the coveted number 1 overall pick in this upcoming NFL draft. They moved on out of that spot, obviously, because they have Justin Fields, and they do not feel the need to replace him after 2 short seasons. Come on, man. We're done with Point Guard Jimmy. Anyway, so they get a haul from the Carolina Panthers, including DJ Moore, number 1 wide receiver for Justin Fields. And we're not really going to analyze this from a Carolina Panther perspective because we're going to get into them later on in the show. But we're going to look at it from the Chicago standpoint. And listen, Scotty, they have had one of my favorite off seasons so far.
Yeah.
I am not a Justin Fields fan so far. I see the upside. I see the talent. I see the quickness. I see all that stuff, the athleticism. I've not seen it from a passer yet. Then again, granted, I was wrong about Jalen Hurts for many of the same reasons. So who the hell knows what's going to happen? But I love this move because so often, so many teams, we've seen the Eagles do it for a couple of years now, up until they went out and traded for A.J. Brown. We've seen a lot of organizations not help out their younger developing quarterbacks by going out and getting them a true number one wide receiver. So the Bears did two things in this one very move. They continued to build for their future with draft picks. They told their young quarterback that, hey, forget all the rumors, forget all the speculation. You're our guy. Yeah. And they went out and solidified that by trading for, maybe he's not a true number one. He's not a top end number one, bottom end number one, high end two. He'd be the best wide receiver Chicago's had for quite some time. Yes, hell, probably since Alshon Jeffrey right? departed. So this is a great move for Chicago, and I like it for Carolina as well, but we'll get into that.
Yeah, no, I'm a big fan of this move. I think this was one of my top 3 moves of the offseason so far, is bringing in DJ Moore. On top of the 4 picks, they got the 9th pick in this year's draft. They got a 2nd-round pick in this year's draft. They got a 1st in 2024, and then they got a 2nd-round pick in 2025. So not only do you get DJ Moore, who is arguably a wide receiver 1, mind you, I'm in agreement with you. I'm not in the AJ Brown level of acquisition like this DJ Moore, right? But they got DJ Moore along with a lot of stuff to supplement that. And I think you can build your team that way as well. But just giving him a number 1 wide receiver, Justin Fields, we're going to find out, right? We're going to see what he looks like with a capable wide receiver in the outfield there. Cole says not this year. I think they have a chance this year. I'm not going to go out and put them at the front runner of that division. I think a little insight. I think the Lions may be that team in that division now. But nonetheless, they're right there. And I do like the additions along with DJ Moore. Absolutely. They've added Tremaine Edwards. They've added Nate Davis, a guard. They've added TJ Edwards from the Eagles. Obviously, we're familiar with him. Robert Tonyan. They also added Foreman from Carolina as well. So they replaced David Montgomery. Now, that is a big loss, but you did replace him. I think that's a pretty good replacement. They did lose an offensive tackle in Riley Reif, but I would put the Bears along with the Saints as one of the winners in the offseason for me.
Absolutely.
You have to – Justin Fields, he showed a lot of promise last year, especially with his legs, of course. But I think there's more to grow there as a passer. He does have the arm talent. It's just, does he have the mental makeup to go along with it? But putting an experienced wide receiver 1 out there with him is going to make a world of difference. We saw what it did for Jalen Hurts. And I'm interested to see what it looks like. You add Robert Tonyan as well, so that gives you kind of a balancing tight end with Cole Kmet, who was impressive last year as well. So this is a team that's building, man, and I like the way they're doing it. I know there was a lot of talk about signing 2 linebackers, Tremaine Edwards and TJ.
I like it.
I like it. I like stabilizing your linebacking core, stabilizing your defense, giving you some enforcers in the middle there. It's a different approach than the modern day NFL, but I think it's something that could work in a big city like Chicago, where it's going to come down to tackling and defense and running the football. This team is going to be built to play in October, November, December, when it gets cold out, January, right? So I think these are all things that bode in Chicago's favor. It's something to be excited about because the offseason isn't over. You have the 9th pick in the draft. You can add something as well.
Tremaine Edmonds is a hell of a pickup for them, obviously. Yeah. And then you mentioned TJ Edwards.
Excuse me, I was getting him confused.
Well, they got TJ Edwards as well, so you can mix the names, get a combination of both. But yeah, dude, Robert Tonyan comes over from Green Bay. You mentioned Deontay Foreman, but I like what they've done. And to Cole's last comment, the draft, that's going to be another big night for Chicago to identify a need. You said they had the 9th overall pick from sliding out of the 1 spot, correct?
Yeah.
That's a play now spot. That is no real developmental kind of guy. You go out and you get a guy that can fill and help you win day 1 at that position. Maybe they go wide receiver to pair with DJ Moore, right? You don't know where they could go. Maybe they go offensive line. It's not the sexy pick. It could be a position in need to help keep Justin Fields upright and not need those legs as much. But they can go a lot of different places. That's interesting.
Line. Yeah. I I think my biggest thing with the Bears here, and I do agree with Cole in a sense, they're literally turning into Eagles Jr. They got the mobile quarterback, right? They've given them the wide receiver one. They're building the defense through youth. But what I would say is just there's a lot of talk comparing Justin Fields and Jalen Hurts. I don't want it to turn into this situation like Jokic and Embiid where we're destroying one to build up the other.
Right.
Like I really don't want to see it turn into that. So I do want Chicago to slow it down a little bit with the comparisons. I think the biggest thing that I've seen from Chicago fans, they're saying, if you thought Jalen Hurts took a leap, imagine what Justin Fields can do. Let's not normalize what Jalen Hurts did last year. Like, let's not do that. So just that little tidbit on Cole's comment. I do agree. They're building their team the right way, but slow down a little bit.
Absolutely, man. Let's move on to our next team being the Carolina Panthers on the other end of that trade. Now, obviously, listen, man, I got to tell you, I like what Carolina has done this year. They are an interesting team, and they're in that division along with the Saints. And because of the question marks at QB, where are they going to go with that number 1 overall pick? Is it Bryce Young? Obviously, then you have the size questions, all that stuff about him as well coming in. So you don't know where they're going to bounce. You don't know where to place them day one this September, right? But obviously, I have, in honor of Booby, Miles Sanders signs a 4-year deal, $25 million, 13 guaranteed with the Carolina Panthers. This deal was 4 years for an injury-prone running back is pretty crazy to me.
I was happy for Miles. So let me put it that
absolutely.
way.
Now,
only overpay, but I'm happy for the man.
What I'll continue to say is, you make that trade. Obviously, you move on from DJ Moore, but you go up and you're going to get your quarterback. You're going to get your guy for the future. Hopefully, it pans out for you. Not just that, you already have a decent defense that you and I discussed about the year prior. You go out, you sign Miles Sanders, Adam Thielen, Hayden Hurst, Von Bell. You bring in Andy Dalton, who can win you a game or two, or if the kid can't start right away, I don't know. They bring in a center. They have had a quietly good offseason. They're my 3rd ranked team so far in terms of offseason upgrades. I think Carolina is going to be service. Like, I think they're much better than where they were last year.
Yeah, I think they're building their team the right way. I think that's what they're doing. They're giving their young quarterback, they're going to give him a nice starting caliber running back in the backfield, a legitimate starting caliber running back, I should say. And, they're going to add more weapons, I would imagine. Adam Thielen won't be the last receiver they add after removing DJ Moore from the equation. But you ask Adam Thielen, they're going to win the Super Bowl this year. So, yeah, they got to be tough. Right? I thought that was hilarious. I mean, I don't know how you can say that, but I do think they're having a hell of an offseason. I think they're making all the right moves.
Can I ask
you have to make that move to go up and get your quarterback at 1, whether it's Bryce Young or CJ.
What do guys, is it written in players' contracts that they have to do a complete mental 180 when they leave and certain nonsense has to spew out of their mouth? Like, we've seen it multiple times with the Eagles so far this offseason. We're going to get into CJ Gardner-Johnson in a little bit. His comments. Javon Hargrave switched up real quick about Brock Purdy in the NFC Championship game. Saw it last offseason with Tyreek Hill talking about Tua versus Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes goes out and wins an MVP in the Super Bowl. What is it with Adam Thielen? Listen, I get it. You want to instill faith and confidence in your team and your new teammates. I got it. What are we doing?
Come on.
Have some
Vikings can't win it. You're not.
Some sort of sense, right? Like some sort of logic.
And to take it even further, Adam Thielen, how would you know what a team that's ready to win the Super Bowl looks like? You haven't done it. You haven't been close. So how do you know?
Should have signed as our slot wide receiver in Philadelphia. Then you might have a chance to win a Super Bowl.
There we go. Yeah, that would have been nice. I think Adam Thielen is still going to be solid. I think he could have a revitalized career there in Carolina, but I don't know if he's wide receiver 1 anymore, right? I think he's more that wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3 type of guy. So hopefully they bring in another guy to kind of take that role that DJ Moore held. But nonetheless, it is a good offseason. It just doesn't need to be picked up to Super Bowl level. If Miles Sanders said it, at least he's been on a roster that's been to the Super Bowl. But even then, he should know better as well. But I'm happy for Miles nonetheless. I think that's my biggest takeaway from this Carolina situation. Knew we wouldn't be able to keep him in Philly. Knew we wouldn't be able to pay him what he maybe deserved. think they paid him a little bit more than that, but nonetheless, I'm happy for Miles. He seems like a really good kid, and I think he'll do well in Carolina. I don't think
You know
he'll
what I
be bad.
respect
I
about
just
Miles?
don't
He
give money to
didn't
running
do
backs.
what I just mentioned. He went out, thank you to Philly, made a
Yeah,
post, go about his business. Maybe
love
he was a little
Miles,
sad
man.
to leave. He goes to Carolina. No, no nonsense being spewed. No nothing. No stupid posts. No running his mouth to reporters about how Carolina has a better roster than the Eagles somehow. So yeah, I mean, I like the signing. The number's a little crazy to me. 4 years for
4 years
a
for a
guy
running
that
back.
has had health issues is a little nuts, but
4
I
years
like
for a
what they've
running back
done.
is nuts, let alone
Oh,
one that has had injuries
absolutely.
in the past. Yeah, I agree.
And then again, they're very similar to the Bears, right? Trying to not necessarily they're more rebuild than the Bears. The Bears already have
Yeah,
their quarterback of the future, but the Panthers draft night is another big night for them, and
yeah,
obviously hope to get their QB, their franchise QB at number one overall. All right, let's move on to our next team on the list. We have the Miami Dolphins, who outside of this move, I would say have had a semi-quiet offseason.
yeah,
Retained a decent amount of guys to go out. They get David Long from linebacker from Tennessee. They go out. They signed Deshaun Elliott, safety from Detroit. They signed Braxton Berrios from the Jets. They lose Mike Gesicki to New England. But this is the big one, right? This is the one you mentioned
yeah,
earlier. The trade for Jalen Ramsey. And then I believe they extended him to this deal, unless this was
yeah,
already left on his deal. But yeah, they
yeah,
extend him 3 years, 55 mil, 35 and a half guaranteed. I think it's a great move, man. I think it's a great move for both sides, being the player Jalen Ramsey and the Dolphins, because he just got his ring in LA 2 short years ago.
yeah,
They're in full disarray and probably rebuild mode. Who knows what's going on there? Aging
yeah,
quarterback, injuries, all that stuff, bad contracts, no draft picks. Then you have Miami, who's trying to compete with Josh Allen and maybe Aaron Rodgers in their division, trying to make the
yeah,
playoffs, and you go out and you pair him with Xavier Howard. I
yeah.
think it's a perfect situation. I don't think Jalen Ramsey is considered to be the top one or two CB that he was probably 2 years ago, 3 years ago. But he's definitely what would you say? Jalen's still top five,
Top
six?
5-ish, definitely top 10, top 5 or 6, so yeah, I would
Yeah.
say.
And like you mentioned earlier on the show, one of the higher CB pairings in
Yeah.
across the league. So I like the move for Miami, man. It was definitely bolster your defense kind of thing and slow down these gunslingers in the AFC.
Yeah, no, I love the move for, Miami. Like you said, it was one of their few moves that they made, but nonetheless, it's a big move, and I think it's a move in the right direction. You now have a top 3 CB pairing in the NFL, and then you have a top 1 or 2 wide receiver pairing in the NFL. You just gotta wait and see what Tua is gonna look like for this team, but don't want to forget they added Bradley Chubb in the middle of the season last year too. So
Great
they
point.
are trying to bolster up this defense, bringing in David Long Jr. from Tennessee. He's another effective linebacker that can add to the unit. I like what they're doing. They have a high-powered offense, a very aggressive air attack, but then on the defense, they have the pass rush and they have the 2 corners on the outside that are going to be able to lock most receivers down on Sunday. So they're building the right way, and I know Cole said something about Eagles Jr. This team is another team that seems to be following that mold of pass rush up front. Then you have the nice secondary in the back, and then on the offense, obviously the young quarterback with the explosive wide receivers. The only thing I'll keep an eye on for them, do they add another more dynamic running back? I believe they brought back Mostert from
And
last
Miles
season,
Gaskin.
and Miles Gaskin. So I would still like to see them add. If I was a Dolphins fan, I would like to see them add something else to that room. But there's not a ton of holes on this team. It's really about Tua. What's his mindset at? Is he recovered from
Right.
all the concussions last year?
Right. The
That's going to be the
craziness.
big question mark. But I think they've really ramped up their defense there.
Yeah, no, I like it, man. And it was the one thing, oddly enough, I was semi high on the Dolphins defense heading into the last season. Then
Yeah.
you get Bradley Chubb, and it was the one thing that kind of hindered them down the stretch. They could not get stops when it counted. And they were in a couple shootouts. So
Their rookie
I
edge rusher is his name's slipping my head. He cooked last year. I'm trying to remember his name. I'm gonna look it
uh
up. I think it was was it Jalen Phillips?
Yeah, you're right. Yeah. I know who you're talking about.
Let me see here. Find his name for sure because he definitely was up there in sacks for him. Yeah, it was Jalen Phillips. So he's like an edge slash linebacker. Yeah, 23 years old out of Miami as well. So that was a perfect fit. He's another explosive edge rusher that's in the mix there across from Bradley Chubb. That's man, you talk about top duos in the NFL. They have top duos at several different positions, several different levels. So very talented team down there in Miami, I would say.
Yeah, no, I'm with you, man. Let's move on to our next team back over in the NFC. And there he is. There he is. Scotty's favorite safety. Mr. CJ Gardner-Johnson signs a 1-year prove-it deal with the Detroit Lions, $6.5 million. The Lions themselves, before we get into this player and this move specifically, and the player himself is going to greatly benefit their defense and their team. The Lions have had a very good offseason. They might be my favorite team so far this offseason. They were on the brink of making the postseason last year. They go out, sign Cam Sutton, sign David Montgomery, sign CJ Gardner-Johnson, sign Emmanuel Mosley. They have had one hell of an offseason, and this is before the draft, and it continues. But I got to lay into my man CJG. I can't even say it anymore. I said this to Phil the other day on Trending, Scotty. I don't want to criticize the man's character.
Yeah.
He comes off as an idiot. As a big time bag fumble idiot. Yeah. So let's recap. You came out. You went to the Super Bowl with the Eagles. The fans loved you. The city loved you. The organization seemed to love you. You're embracing the GM in the locker room. You're embracing the coach on the sideline. You want to be back. Throughout the beginning of free agency and the legal tampering period, you decide to play some questionable games on social media. You're deleting pictures. You're putting them back up. You're quote tweeting things. You're deleting tweets, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You're retweeting pictures of you in other uniforms, but you want to be back so badly. The Phillies, the Eagles, offer you a multi-year deal. You say no. You say, I'm worth more than that. I'm going to gamble on myself. Then Jesse Bates and other safeties start to set the market, and CJ's not as valuable as he thought, Scotty.
Right? Like even as valuable as the best safety in the market, you're not, right?
Now he wants to come back. Oh, is that same deal on the table? Oh, sorry. We re-signed James and we restructured Darius. So he has to take a 1-year prove-it deal for much less money with the Detroit Lions than he would have to stay with the Philadelphia Eagles. And add all of that together, he has the balls to call out Philly fans and talk about how quick they switch up. Comes out and says the Lions have a better roster than, this is the shit I'm talking about, a better roster than the Eagles had last year. We've seen a lot of athletes in this city fall from our graces pretty quickly. Very talented athletes. Ben Simmons is obviously the first one that comes to mind, right?
Yeah.
He went from one of the most beloved athletes in the city to the most hated athlete, former Eagle in this city in a millisecond. Yeah. He comes off as an idiot. He comes off as arrogant, and he comes off as a guy who probably is not does not have such great character in a locker room. If the Saints tried to warn us, we didn't listen, and now clearly something went sour with the Philadelphia Eagles, so he's all Detroit's. My man, I know you've had a lot of tweets put out about CJ Gardner-Johnson. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, man. I'm the prime example of what you're talking about as far as a Philly fan completely switching up on this guy. And it's not, it didn't happen before he called us switch ups, right?
Oh, yeah.
It didn't happen until that moment because, dude, he's a child, man. And I think the writing's on the wall with this guy. And I feel very strongly about this because I wanted this guy back on our team.
I wanted him back more than anybody.
Wanted him back more than anybody, more than James Bradberry. And mind you, James Bradberry is a crucial piece to this defense. Wanted this guy back more because of his youth. He's 25, right? He's going to be the safety of the future. Dude, the games that he plays, you see why. You see why when he comes back and asks the Eagles to just match that offer from Detroit, they say no. Because the Eagles have proven their organization is not about the drama that comes with a guy like this. And I hate to say that because he's clearly a guy that doesn't have the right people around him, right? Like we talk about Lamar Jackson, how his situation is going. We talk about Ja Morant in the NBA, doesn't have the right people. This guy's another example of a guy that just doesn't have the right people around him advising him. You have an agency that is working for him that tweets out a contract, a hypothetical contract. You don't do that. Like, that's just weird. It loses all credibility from the agency, in my opinion.
He probably runs the Twitter account.
You feel you have to do that.
Right.
Like, you felt that you had to do that
validation.
because your client did so bad on the market. You felt you had to put that stuff out there. Mind you, the shit wasn't even true anyways. And that's the biggest thing. Don't lie about it either, CGJ, because he put that's cap over Jeff McClain's tweet. It's not cap. It's not. It's not cap, bro. Like, we offered you the contract. You see how the offseason played out. James Bradbury wasn't signed until the day after free agency started, which means they were spending that first day trying to get CGJ done. He didn't want to let it happen, and that's fine. I get wanting to go and test your market. I get it. Didn't play out the way he thought it would. Don't get salty at the Philadelphia Eagles and the Philadelphia Eagles fans for that. That's not our fault.
That's my biggest problem, bro. So there's two sides. Y'all switch up quick. You don't regardless if you were a Twitter troll, a child, as Scotty said, regardless of all that, are we supposed to root for the Detroit Lions now because CJ Gardner-Johnson's the Detroit Lion? But forget all that. Like, that's secondhand. That's not even part of this conversation. The point is, pal, we wanted you back.
Yeah.
The Eagles wanted you back. They prioritized you over everything else. You bet on yourself. You lost. You fumbled the bag. And now, because Eagles fans see how childish you are on social media, you have the balls to attack them and then delete it within 0.2 seconds as if it's not the internet and someone didn't grab a screenshot. Hell, I grabbed the screenshot and I'm not even that person.
It's so childish, man. It's so childish. And the one thing I'll say about this, again, the writing's on the wall for this guy, because this isn't the first place this has happened. This isn't the first fan base he's accused of.
We were blinded because we respect that dog mentality. And
what were the Saints fans telling us when we got him on Twitter, on all these social media platforms? What were they saying to Eagles fans? Watch out for this guy. He's great on the field. Off the field, he's a problem. He's in a video, and I don't know how long ago that video is from, where he's talking about which teammate would you not take financial advice from. And he says himself. He says himself, man. Like, what? What are we dealing with here, man? As much as I wanted him back, I do get why you just let a guy like that go. You just
absolutely. And you know what the problem now is? Like you said, we were happy for Miles, right? And we're happy for other guys. And, you know, a week ago, we would have been happy for CJ Gardner-Johnson wherever he went.
I'm rooting for him
now,
honestly.
Exactly. It makes you that angry inside that you're going to laugh when he has a bad year. And then guess what? That this 1 year prove it deal turns into even less. I know that sounds wrong, as if we're taking food out of his mouth, we're taking money away. He did that.
Yeah.
He did that.
And he blamed us for it already.
Yeah.
He blamed us for it. Like we have control. Like, I would have given him the bag in the
And let's not act like $6.5 million is taking food out of the dude's mouth, okay?
Yeah, he's going to be all right, man. And this isn't to take away from the Lions edition.
No. I think he's going to be I still think he's going to be a dog there on the field.
He'll be great on the field. It's just when you get to next offseason, if that extension isn't done, you're dealing with this time, Detroit. And Detroit's now coming at us how we went at the Saints.
If Detroit doesn't sign him back next year and he doesn't get that crazy 3, 4, 5 year deal that he wanted with that number, and he has another 2 year, $11 million deal, you know it's him, because now this is a third team that ain't putting up with it.
Exactly. And as much as Eagles fans clamored, slamming on the table to bring this guy back, we're yelling at Howie through social media to bring this guy back. It was a slap in the face, honestly. It's one thing to take a contract elsewhere if that's the best financial situation for you and your family. But to slap us in the face after we begged you and pleaded for you to come back to this team.
And you're wrong. And you were wrong.
Ridiculous. And you
were wrong.
You have Jared Goff. Mind you, Jared Goff definitely showed improvements last year. Jalen Hurts, like, you're disrespecting your old team that you went to the Super Bowl with, man. Yeah. No, and then it's like A.J. Brown, too. You know, I don't want to throw too much out there. You know, we're not even to the Eagles yet, but A.J. Brown talking about people switching up. Who are you talking about, man? Like, who are you talking about?
I'm going to throw this out there, and obviously we're going to get to the Eagles in a couple minutes.
Yeah.
I love A.J. Brown.
Yeah.
I want no problems with the man. I want him to stay here. I want him to win a Super Bowl with Jalen Hurts. I want him to help us win a Super Bowl. A.J. Brown could potentially, Phil brought this up the other day as well, could potentially be an issue down the line.
I see it already.
And Tennessee fans said the same thing as well when we moved on from him. And it's like, oh, no, that's not the case. And listen, the dude was a freak this year, and he's going to continue to be a freak, and he's the man. And at times he's funny on social media. But to your point, what you just said, why is he calling? Like, what, dude?
Yeah.
Like, he's beefing with Eagles fans at points. Like,
and that's the thing. You can't combat the city. Like, you just can't. Not in Philadelphia. You can't do it. And that's the problem sometimes when you get these big personalities that come through here. I'm not saying that it will, like you said. I'm not saying
no, and I pray to God not.
But I can see it, man. What happens when Smitty's contract extension starts getting talked about, and we're talking about paying Smitty more than AJ? He's going to want another contract extension, right? Like Slay with Bradbury. We got to work through it with Slay and Bradbury, but yeah, man, if I had to pick one player that could be a problem on this team in the future that's extended already, that would be the guy.
Just from some of the
I hate to say that. He's such a great talent. He's one of my favorite players on the team on the field, but I'll be out front with you here. I'll be open on the pod. I'll be open publicly here. I don't like his personality, right? Like, I don't think it meshes with Philadelphia great. I don't think it's a great fit personality-wise. We are lucky to have his best friend at quarterback, and he's a perfect fit in the city. I think that's as simple as I can put it.
It's a great point. Let's move on. Let's move on. Let's have a laugh. Let's have a laugh, shall we? Because this is funny. This is great for our Philadelphia Eagles. Danny Dimes re-signs with the New York Football Giants. 4 years, $160 million, $92 million guaranteed. Thoughts? Go ahead. You can go first. I saw reports that he wanted to be the highest paid quarterback in the NFL.
Yeah, I mean, come on. That's mental illness that we're talking about there. But hey, the Giants paid him. I don't know. I don't know if I would have paid him this, but if this is the asking price, right? Do you let Daniel Jones walk out the door?
Right.
$92 million guaranteed. I mean, he didn't have weapons. I'm trying to be fair here. He didn't have weapons last year. You are able to retain Saquon Barkley in some sense and bring him back next year. You add some other weapons, Darren Waller to the mix, right? Who was the other receiver? Did they bring in a receiver? I thought they brought in.
They did just sign somebody. Hold on.
Can't remember who it is.
Paris Campbell.
Yeah, I mean, he's like another one of those middle of the pack wide receivers for me, but I don't know. I guess the ulterior perspective from ours, where I'm just like, man, this is ridiculous that Daniel Jones is getting a contract like this, because that's my true thought on it. I'm not paying Daniel Jones this. I don't see how it equates. But where else do the Giants go?
That's fair. You said you'd be nice. I'm not going to be so nice. This is laughable.
I'm interested in your thoughts. Lay it out there.
This, as an Eagles fan, thank you. Thank you for this blessing. Here's why I'm not going to be nice. Because to the city of New York and that fan base and Eagle haters, just a few short months ago, talk themselves and tried to talk other people into the fact that Daniel Jones was going to walk into Lincoln Financial Field and upset the Philadelphia Eagles, that Daniel Jones would be better on the Eagles than Jalen Hurts, or do what Jalen Hurts is doing with this same roster if you gave him these weapons. And then he got smacked in the mouth with reality. Daniel Jones threw 15 touchdown passes last year. You know what he threw the year before that, Scotty? 10. You know what he threw the year before that? 11. And you just gave this dude $92 million guaranteed. I don't care that his quarterback rating and his passing yards were a little bit higher. I don't care that his completion percentage was a little bit. Listen, he had a good season. Daniel Jones was fine last year. And at times, it was cool to see what he could do with little weapons. He didn't have a lot of help. I'll give him that. 92 mil guaranteed for a dude that hasn't thrown over 15 touchdowns since his rookie season when he threw 24. He has thrown 11, 10, and 15. Last year was supposed to be his best NFL season, and he had 15 touchdowns and barely over 3,200 yards passing.
It's complacency.
It's a blessing. It is a blessing that they paid this man.
You got me to the playoffs. Sign him up.
I'm so interested to hear, okay, so that his problem last year was he didn't have help. All right, cool. You went out, you got Darren Waller. If he stays healthy, that's a cool pickup for them.
Yeah.
What are they doing in the wide receiver room? What free agent wide receivers are still out there? Are they OBJ? Okay, he's going to be your number one. I just talked about how he could be a cool number 3 with the New York Jets. He's going to come in and be your number 1. What trade are they trading for?
Arizona. Yeah, that would be the smart route, right? That would be giving him as much as you can, giving Daniel Jones as much as you possibly can. I don't know, man. I'm not a fan of this. I mean, I don't know what else the Giants would do. I guess you can't just let him walk. But do I give him this upper level contract when you're talking about quarterbacks? No, I just can't do that. And like y'all said, it's a blessing for the Eagles. It's a blessing for the rest of the division that you're going to be complacent and he's going to be your starting quarterback for at least the next 3 years, right? I'm sure in the 4th year they have a way of getting out of that. But yeah, it's just funny because it felt like the Giants fans were like leader of the Eagles downfall cult, on social media. And it's like, no, in reality, that's you that are in the downfall. This is the downfall.
Here's what's so funny about them, right? And all that shit that was talked last year and even continuing up until today, right? They hated Daniel Jones.
Right.
They wanted their own fans wanted nothing to do with Daniel Jones. And they themselves allowed a 15 passing touchdown season to change their minds. That's your fault, you dumbasses. You're the reason he's still in the city.
Bro,
if you would have kept booing, if you wouldn't have bought in, you didn't do any of it. I don't think New York probably gives them the money. You backed your organization signing because the dude got you to the playoffs and threw 15 touchdowns.
Look at it this way. Mind you, the ruling's out on Daniel Jones next year and in the future with Brian DeBoer. We'll see, right? That's like paying Jalen Hurts after his first season with Nick Sirianni. That's paying him this type of contract afterwards.
I agree.
We wouldn't have done it. I agree. So that's the equivalent. Mind you, I get it. He was up for an extension.
Maybe you could argue it's one peg up from Jalen's rookie year because he didn't turn the ball. I don't even remember if Jalen threw a lot of interceptions his rookie. I don't think he did, but whatever. It was a little cleaner.
It's equivalent to Jalen's rookie year, honestly, man. I think it's equivalent, right? He used his legs mostly.
The Eagles' new backup quarterback threw the same amount of passing touchdowns as their new franchise guy.
He signed for $5 million.
Yeah. Thank you. All right.
Yeah.
That was my
I don't know,
laugh.
man.
Now a little bit of misery is going to set in because, as you texted me earlier, just slap my microphone. They're having. I'll give it to you. The Cowboys are having a good offseason so far.
It is, man.
They're having a good offseason.
Miserably.
Traded for Brandon Cooks. Now, I will say this before we get. I like this deal. You gave him a 5th-round pick. I don't know what the Colts are doing. You paid Stephon Gilmore. You trade him after 1 year for a 5th-round pick. He's got 1 year remaining under a $10 million cap hit. He's, again, talking about Jalen Ramsey earlier. He's not a top 3 lockdown corner anymore. Still, again, that borderline top 5, definitely top 10 quarterback. You put him across from Trevon Diggs, who, you know me, I'm not in the Trevon Diggs camp, but you have a good pairing now to add to that already good defense. Okay? The Brandon Cooks thing's funny to me. I know you like the deal. I like the deal. It's another weapon for Dak. I just laugh at it for the fact that you traded Amari Cooper for a 5th or 6th round pick because he wasn't worth that cap hit. And then you turn around and basically trade that pick or whatever they traded for Brandon Cooks, who is around the same age with injury history, around the same number as Amari. It just doesn't make sense.
When you put it in that frame, it's not that great of a move. Yeah. Because I was going to say that is, I was going to mention it as between that move and this move as like a top 3 move in the offseason. Maybe we'll just side with the Gilmore. We'll lean towards that direction. I do think Cooks is a good addition, but to your point, you would rather just have Amari Cooper, right? Like that's who I would rather have. But I do think, you look at some of the things that they've been able to do this offseason, which is why I'll go ahead and put it at the forefront. They're one of my top 3 winners of this offseason. Not only do you go out, you get Stephon Gilmore, you get Brandon Cooks for close to nothing in reality. Like I would trade a 5th round pick for this caliber of players, right? But they work some magic with the restructures as well. And I don't have all the numbers in front of me, but I know they were able to restructure Dak. They restructured Brandon Cooks when he came in. I can't remember who there was another
tag Pollard.
Franchise tag Pollard, and there was another significant restructure amongst their star players. They re-signed Van Der Esch. They re-signed Van Der Esch. They re-signed Donovan Wilson.
Was it the edge rusher?
Huh?
Was it an edge rusher?
Dante Fowler they re-signed. Maybe it was DeMarcus Lawrence they restructured.
Maybe
it was him. One of the bigger contract guys. They restructured him to save money this season. They bring back Van Der Esch. They bring back Donovan Wilson, who I was fairly impressed with Donovan Wilson last year, and I don't like saying that, but he's a hard-nosed safety, I would say. Dante Fowler, edge rusher, played pretty well for them. They brought back Cooper Rush as well. And then you add in Stephon Gilmore and Brandon Cooks. They did lose Zeke McGovern on the offensive line, and then Dalton Schultz, as our buddy Kyle mentioned there. So I don't know. When you have an offense, Dalton Schultz was solid, and I know he definitely killed the Eagles when we played him as well. So we'll see how much that drops off compared to adding like a Brandon Cooks. I think letting Zeke go might be the right move for them. I told you last year, if you have a back like Tony Pollard, I would probably move on and let Tony Pollard be that premier back. But that being said, Tony Pollard did fracture his leg or his ankle at the end of the season last year. Right. So something to keep an eye on there. Nonetheless, I do like what the Cowboys have done. I thought they've gotten creative, which is something we haven't seen from Steven and Jerry Jones in the past.
I agree. I think this offseason has shown a little bit of maturity from Dallas in terms of not holding on to guys unnecessarily that we would have. They move on from Zeke. Now, obviously, he gives his list. The Eagles are on that list. We could talk about that another time. But you move on from Zeke. It's the right move, right?
Yeah.
Dalton Schultz just couldn't match it. Right, probably you didn't want to.
And I wouldn't overpay Dalton Schultz, so that's why I don't view it as that bad of a move to let him go.
Gilmore, like you did. Here's what's surprising about what they did so far this offseason.
Yeah,
their strength was what last year? What side of the ball?
Defense.
Their defense.
Yeah,
they bolstered it a little bit more.
Yeah, and kept
that's the impressive thing. Normally, you would see Jerry go out and be like, you know what? I need 2 more star wide receiver. I need a star wide receiver, and I need this. He went out and bolstered the strength and added to the offense because, listen, regardless, Dallas is going to score 28, 27, 26 points per, whatever the case is going to be. Dak's going to score.
Yeah.
Their defense, they allow to be better, and Stephon Gilmore is their main pickup so far, and I like it for them.
And
it'll be interesting.
And they keep Dan Quinn. That's a huge part as well. They keep their defensive coordinator. While we weren't fans of Jonathan Gannon, they love Dan Quinn.
The good news is they still have Mike McCarthy, though. So that's a positive.
And they let Kellen Moore go, which arguably was the bright spot of offensive play calling, right? So we'll see how that works out.
Last slide of the evening, my man. Let's get into our Philadelphia Eagles. And obviously, I have James Bradbury up here. He re-signs with the Eagles. He was basically the first real move, the first positive of the offseason for the Birds. 3 years, $38 million contract, $20 million guaranteed. Following that, they bring in Marcus Mariota on a backup QB deal. I like it. They bring in Rashad Penny on a 1 year, less than $1 million guaranteed. Like it. They go out and they restructure Darius Slay, and they're bringing him back after we thought he was gone.
Right.
Love it. Outside of that, we know they've lost Isaac Seumalo, Miles Sanders, Zach Pascal, Kazir White, TJ Edwards, CJ Gardner-Johnson, Marcus Epps. Am I missing anybody? They brought back Brandon Graham. They brought back Fletcher Cox. How would you rate this offseason so far?
Yeah. I don't know. It's a win, right? Like, it's a win of an offseason, I would say, because you do keep Bradbury, you keep Slay, you keep BG, you keep Cox, you keep Jason Kelsey, right? The losses do hurt. Like, you lose your offensive and your defensive coordinator. You lose a couple different starters on the defensive end. The only thing I would counter that with is that they did have replacements for some of these players. And to D-Rab's point there, they retained a lot. I think that's the key thing there. But on top of the retainment, they have kept – yeah, it could have been way worse. I think that's a great way to put it, because Bradbury could have simply gone out and got the most money, right? BG could have went out, got the most money. Cox
Slay,
he had a higher
Slay
offer
could
from
have.
Jets.
Slay had 1 foot out the door. He could have said, "No,
Yeah.
I'm not restructuring."
He didn't have to come back into those talks with us, right? Like, so there's a couple different avenues this offseason could have went. I would say it's gone as good as it could have, right?
I agree.
We know that Hurts extension is coming. Yeah, you would have liked to see CGJ stay. If you're looking back, hindsight, I would rather have Bradbury at this point. He wants to be here.
1,000%.
Better personality.
From what
the
we've
lockdown
learned,
corner, all pro. So, yeah, I think this offseason has gone as well as it can. I would give us a B plus. I feel like I can't give an A just because of the pieces you lose. You lose Hargrave. That's a big loss.
and you haven't added anything explosive, right? We don't know what Penny is. You sign a backup quarterback.
Right.
Yeah, you sign
say,
Greedy Williams.
These are low risk,
Absolutely.
high reward type of signings. I mean, the Nicholas Morrow from they picked up from the Bears had over 100 tackles. That's basically Kaiser White, right? Like, that's literally Kaiser White. Our hopes is that Nakobe Dean can be TJ Edwards. So we have that replacement there. Then you look at Greedy Williams. He's another guy, has a ton of upside.
I like the Greedy Williams signing.
He's going to be a backup outside corner. That's what we need. We need somebody to be there in case Slay or Bradbury goes down, and he has upside. Justin Evans, he's another guy. I don't know a ton about him. I know he has injury history, but a low-risk, high-reward situation where he played for the Bucs last year and played decently well, right?
If Howie can go out and get Kevin Byard, this would be an A+ offseason.
Yeah, there you go.
Without a doubt. Yeah. I don't know what the price would be. I don't know. He's not even officially released from Tennessee. I don't know what the case would be. But that would be a win. I agree with Darius's point. It could have been way worse so far, and that's why it's a win. And to your point of the high risk or the low risk, high reward signings in a Rashad Penny in those depth positions, that's what Super Bowl caliber teams need. Yeah. But yes, we've lost pieces. Duh, I get it. You lose Isaac Seumalo. You lose TJ Edwards. You lose CJ Gardner-Johnson. It hurts. You lose Javon Hargrave, 10+ sack guy. Yeah. It hurts. Don't get me wrong. First of all, Javon Hargrave should have never gotten that money. That was a ludicrous deal from San Francisco. So I'm glad they didn't give him that money. CJ Gardner-Johnson, we understand why he's no longer here. They have the young replacements coming up in Cam Jurgens, in Nakobe Dean, in Jordan Davis. You have 2 first-round picks this year. You have multiple first-round picks and multiple draft picks next year. You have Howie, the cap genius. And the bottom line is the guy on the screen and the guy who we thought were trading are both back, and you kept the leaders in Fletcher Cox and Brandon Graham and Jason Kelsey. Let's not forget that part, that he's back. Okay? So with all that said, yes, you've lost pieces, especially defensively. Howie's not done. You can draft. There's going to be more guys signed and or traded for. And you have your cornerback room locked up for the next 3+ years. That's huge to me, man. I was with you. I was in the same boat. I wanted CJ Gardner-Johnson back. I like the explosiveness. I like the playmaking. I like the youth aspect of it all. I am so glad James Bradbury is the one that is back right now.
Yeah, I said something of that nature on Twitter as well. I mean, James Bradbury, even looking at him comparison to Slay, he's got a better personality than Slay, in my opinion, when it comes to what I want my ideal football player mentalities to be. Not be loudmouths on Twitter, not tweet all of their thoughts out to the public, right? Keep things in house. I like that side of things. I like that about James Bradbury in that sense. But I think, from the I think the problem is outsiders looking in, always trying to act like they know what's going on in Philadelphia, right?
Absolutely.
And I think that's the problem because
And
we
they
obviously
see the number, they see the list of guys gone.
exactly, but they
With
don't
no
look at what we
idea of
have.
backup plan, draft picks, what Howie can do. Nothing. As if the all season's already over, Scotty. As if this is the roster we're going to have.
What's Jordan Davis supposed to do? Sit behind Javon Hargrave again next year? What's Nakobe Dean supposed to do? Sit behind TJ Edwards again next year? Like, I get, we're going to add another defensive tackle. I know that. We're going to add some depth on the offensive line, maybe another wide receiver, maybe another running back here or there. But nonetheless, I think there was just a lot of panic over nothing. Javon Hargrave, great player. Eagles still led the league in sacks without Hargrave in the total.
Right.
Literally. But all of a sudden, our pass rush is gone, right? Like, I don't know. I think
I am not a fan of the guy.
San Fran, but it's okay for us to let him walk on that contract.
I'm not a fan of the guy. Derek Barnett is coming back this year, so he's going to give you a couple sacks, right? And this one, to me, Jordan Davis is the polar opposite kind of player Javon Hargrave is.
Right.
He's a run stopper. He's not going to get in the backfield and have a number of sacks, right? Milton Williams is key here because he's shown signs of progression over his last 2 years. He can get to in the backfield. He can get to the quarterback. He's the interesting one. I do agree with you that they're going to make more moves. Stoutland University, 110%. And you have Cam Jurgens that can fill in. They're fine, man. They are fine on the offensive line.
And this is
everything.
This is one of the biggest things, right? If not the biggest. You get to add a day one starter at the 10th pick.
Can I let you in on a secret before we wrap up the show?
Yes, sir.
If he's available later on,
you take Bijan Robinson.
I'm all over.
Yeah,
Bijan Robinson.
Me and D-Rab have been talking about this.
Effing over it. Listen, it is not the need. It is not the big. It is not what they need to do. I know they went out and signed Rashad Penny.
That's not stopping me.
Picture him and that explosiveness.
Yeah.
With it, because people go, well, we already have the running back. Running backs are so, are so flexible, especially behind this offensive line. And we already have all, AJ and Devontae and God. Oh, exactly. Picture that kid behind this offensive line with Jalen Hurts, with that receiving core. Picture that. Okay?
Yeah,
so you're goddamn right. If he's there at 30, or if I trade back to 34, 35, and he's there then, I'm taking Bijan Robinson right then and there. You can forget about it.
Look, and I know the worry is like taking him at 10, and I get that. Like,
well, that to me, that's asinine. No running back should be selected that high.
If you were to trade back from that pick, it's not a bad option. You have to look, like, when you look at this Eagles roster, we have to think, like, where could we insert a day one starter? There's not a ton of options to insert a Christian Gonzalez. We don't have a cornerback opening.
And Howie does not go linebacker early. He doesn't go safety early. Those are the two positions.
He might go defensive line, and that's fine, right? If Jalen Carter follows, that is the move. I would agree with that at 10.
Yeah, I agree there as well. What I will say is, like, I hate the need. Here's my point, right? Okay, well, running backs are so flexible. You shouldn't waste the high draft. I agree. But at the same time, when you're talking about trading back or late first round, whatever the case, guys, we took Jalen Reagor.
Yeah.
So what is different? Like, do you understand that? Just take talent. Forget the position. Take talent. We've dealt with we took Jalen Reagor at 20. Why could I not take Bijan Robinson at 17 or 18?
And look,
from a talent perspective.
Sometimes there's outliers, man. If you get a running back on a rookie contract and he's gone in the fourth season, that's fine, right? You get 3 to 4 seasons of them in pristine condition. And my biggest thing is it would take so much weight off of Jalen Hurts' shoulders that we preserve him for a couple extra years. Might take 2 or 3 years, add 2 or 3 years onto his career length, right?
I just think
So
it would
I'm
be
looking at
so
it from that
fun,
perspective too. It would be so fun. You're talking about a 3-down back. We don't have one of those. Even with Rashad Penny, you don't have a 3-down back. Even with Miles Sanders, you didn't have a 3-down back that can do it all. Catch the ball out of the backfield, run it in between the tackles, run outside of the tackles, pass protect. He does it all. You would have him and Jalen Hurts on the field for entire games, and I just don't see how you would stop that offense. And then you talk about if you add a competent wide receiver 3 into the mix, I mean, my God.
I'm with you.
Looking at the
But
best
I also
offense
am
in
with
the
you for the
NFL.
fact if you are at 10 or you slide back to 12 or whatever, and the off the field stuff and the weight stuff is coming in on Jalen Carter and he's there,
Yeah.
I'm taking Jalen. Phil asked me the other morning when Phil's on board. You're
Give me
taking him, bro. I'm sorry. You're taking him. I know
Yeah.
we listen. I know it kind of contradicts ourselves because we're all about clean like keeping the locker room together and the culture and all. I'll take the risk.
He
that
played
Brandon
with Jordan
Graham
Davis and Kobe Dean, right?
Yep.
He played with them. So I'm cool with bringing him in-house because we wouldn't do that unless they signed off on that as well. They played
I would have faith in guys like Fletcher Cox and Brandon Graham and Jason Kelce to help mold him into an NFL caliber.
We have leaders.
Character. Yep.
We have leaders.
And Nick Sirianni and everybody. I have faith in all of them. So
even CGJ hugged
there.
Nick Sirianni and cried in the postseason, right? And we talked about him a lot this show. So Nick Sirianni can get everybody on board. I have no doubt in that. How he's going to make the best decision. We know that.
Yes, sir.
We've seen it all offseason so far.
All right, guys. With that being said, that is going to wrap up this edition of NFL Turf Talk, our free agency overview. Obviously, as the weeks go on, more signings we've made, more trades. Aaron Rodgers could be on the move very soon. You have the NFL draft coming up, which is going to be a big night, big weekend for our Philadelphia Eagles. So Scotty and I will be back for you more throughout this offseason, breaking it all down. With that being said, don't forget to check us out on Twitter at DSM_media. Hit that follow button. Check out the link tree. It's in our bio. It'll take you to every platform we're on. Make sure you hit that subscribe button on the YouTube channel. Best place to get your thoughts, comments, and questions pulled up on each and every show. For myself, for Scotty, have a great rest of your night.
Go Birds.
And one-on-one. Love it.